For I handed on to you as of first importance what I in turn had received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas and then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers and sisters at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have died. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles. Last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared also to me. For I am the least of the apostles, unfit to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace toward me has not been in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the grace of God that was with me. Whether then it was I or they, so we proclaim, and so you have come to believe. Now if Christ is proclaimed as raised from the dead, how can some of you say there is no resurrection of the dead? If there is no resurrection of the dead, then Christ has not been raised. And if Christ has not been raised, then our proclamation has been in vain, and your faith has been in vain. We are even found to be misrepresenting God, because we testified of God that he raised Christ, whom he did not raise, if it is true that the dead are not raised. For if the dead are not raised, then Christ has not been raised. If Christ has not been raised, your faith is futile, and you are still in your sins. Then those also who have died in Christ have perished. If for this life only we have hoped in Christ, we are of all people most pitied. But in fact, Christ has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have died. For since death came through a human being, the resurrection of the dead has also come through a human being. For as all die in Adam's, so will all be made alive in Christ. But each of us in his own order. Christ, the first fruits, then at his coming, those who belong to Christ. Then comes the end, when he hands over the kingdom of God to God the Father, after he has destroyed every ruler and every authority and every power. For he must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy to be destroyed is death, for God has put all things in subjection under his feet. But when it says all things are put in subjection, it is plain that this does not include the one who put all things in subjection under him. When all things are subjected to him, then the Son of himself will also be subjected to the one who put all things in subjection under him, so that God may be all in all. Otherwise, what will those people do who receive baptism on behalf of the dead? If the dead are not raised at all, why are people baptized on their behalf? And why are we putting ourselves in danger every hour? I die every day. That is certain, brothers and sisters, as my boasting of you, a boast that I make in Christ Jesus our Lord. If with merely human hopes I fought wild animals at Ephesus, what would I have gained by it? If the dead are not raised, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Come to a sober and right mind, and sin no more, for some people have no knowledge of God. I say this to your shame. But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body do they come? Fool, what you sow does not come to life unless it dies. And as for what you sow, you do not sow the body that is to be, but a bare seed, perhaps of wheat or of some other grain. But God gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. Not all flesh is alike, and there is one flesh for human beings, another for animals, another for birds, another for fish. There are both heavenly bodies and earthly bodies, but the glory of God of the heavenly is one thing, and that of the earthly is another. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. Indeed, Stars differ from stars in glory. So it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Thank you. Harmon is a good friend of our church. He is the church liaison for the Presbyterian Foundation, which preserves the legacy not only of the Presbyterian denomination, but of many churches, including ours. And legacy is what we're going to be talking about today, the legacy of the Lord's Supper. So I ask you now to listen to Maggie as she shares with us a message which is called From Everlasting to Everlasting.
Welcome to the Presbyterian Foundation Ministry Relations Program presentation of From Everlasting to Everlasting. This is an opportunity to learn more about legacy giving and how our values can live on, even as our lifetime story ends. Let's start with a moment for devotional reflection using an excerpt from Psalm 103. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all God's benefits. As for mortals, their days are like grass. They flourish like a flower of the field, for the wind passes over it, and it is gone, and its place knows it no more. But the steadfast love of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting, on those who are in awe of God, and God's righteousness to children's children, to those who keep the covenant and remember to do God's commandments. In this passage, we hear the call to consider how our place in time, though temporary, is informed by the generous gifts we have received. Those gifts are passed on from those who come before us and reflect as symbols the spirit of the permanence of God's presence. As we recognize these gifts and consider how we will pass them on, we find also an opportunity to intentionally engage in sharing our values with the generations that will come after us. We long for a way to have a remembered place, even as we pass from the world. It is through the sharing of the love that we have received, through our active, expressive choices, that we ensure our values live in our children's children and beyond. During the program today, we will cover the basics of legacy giving. We will also look at what a legacy gift is and why you would consider making it a part of your stewardship practice. A legacy gift is ultimately a reflection of your lifetime commitment to stewardship. And as such, we will also look at some practical ways you can make a legacy gift. By the end of today's presentation, we hope you will be both inspired and curious about leaving your own legacy. Following the presentation, we encourage you to contact your ministry relations officer for individual support or to answer any questions you might have as a church. Your ministry relations officer can help individuals develop their own vision for legacy giving. They can also provide support and resources for establishing a legacy giving program in your congregation. And now, let's talk about legacy giving by starting with understanding just what a legacy gift is. The definition of legacy is fairly simple, but even with the simplest things, we can find a lot to consider. The first part of the definition reads, a gift by will or through an estate. That's the simple part. A secondary definition reads, something transmitted by or received from an ancestor. The two definitions together are what we're talking about today. The former speaks to how we effect a legacy gift. The latter is actually much broader and speaks to the transmission of values through the generations as much as the transfer of things. And as we think about what it means to transfer things, we also want to make sure we are doing that in a way that conveys our values. We want to share how and why something is important to us. It is in that transfer of values that we truly leave a legacy that flourishes in future generations. 8 years before his death, Alfred Nobel had the opportunity to read his obituary, and he didn't like what it said. The headline ran, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." Up to that point in his life, he had made his fortune through the development of dynamite and military weapons. He was a wealthy man through tools that were used to kill. Today, if you Google Alfred Nobel, you will likely learn first that he was a philanthropist who valued literature, science, and innovation. Nobel had a unique opportunity to see what his legacy was going to be. Perhaps it was through an act of grace he came to understand that Merchant of Death was not the legacy he actually wanted to leave. Ultimately, he chose to use his fortune to support awards, the Nobel Prizes, that recognize academic, cultural, and scientific advances, things that empower life for the citizens of the world. So even if we don't like the direction we have been going, we always have the opportunity to shift. It is never too late to affirmatively choose the legacy we want to leave and to move in the direction of those gifts. We are all leaving a legacy one way or another. What a gift it is to engage proactively in choosing what our legacies will look like. I want to change direction here just a bit and talk for a few minutes about legacy as a part of our stewardship practice. During our lifetime, we engage in our congregations, our communities, and our families by sharing that trinity of stewardship, time, talent, and treasure. But we are also creatures of spirit. We find our faith in the promise that comes from resurrection, from life everlasting. The opportunity to leave an affirmative, intentional legacy is an act of life and spirit, because it is in that gift that our values live on. We can continue to be a part of our congregations with an active engagement and caring for those things that have helped us grow in life. Consider this passage from Deuteronomy 24, verses 21 and 22. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean what is left. It shall be for the alien, the orphan, and the widow. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I am commanding you to do this. We are the recipients of so many gifts, including the vast freedom that lies in being a part of the beloved community of God's children. And we express gratitude by being in covenant with God and providing for others with the gleanings of the gifts we have received. Our generosity, or engagement with our church and our community, and our values can live on through the affirmative choices we make in defining our legacies. Even as we all seek to leave a legacy that reflects our values, many often feel that legacy giving is only for the wealthy. That could not be further from the truth. We all have something to share. It is not the size of our gift, but our commitment to the work of building the kingdom of God that is important. I want to read to you now a few verses of what will probably be familiar scripture to you. Mark 12, verses 41 through 44. This is the story of the widow's mite. Jesus is watching as people bring their gifts to the treasury. And Jesus' central point is to look beyond the total dollar amount given and look at the circumstances of the gift, the commitment that is being made. Look for the faith behind the gift. He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." Certainly, we are not expected to give everything we have or to put ourselves in a position of being destitute. But when we think about how we can leave our legacies, we don't have to feel limited by not being able to make as big a gift as someone with more resources. The widow's mite shows us that all of our gifts are blessed and can be a blessing when they are shared. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 12 speaks directly to this. For if the eagerness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. Let's turn now to how to make a legacy gift. There are two big categories, and each category has several ways of making gifts. The first is perhaps the easiest. That is through a bequest or a transfer on death designation. A bequest is a specific designation made in a will or a trust that occurs on death. You can offer a specific dollar amount or a percentage of your total estate. It can be as simple as adding a clause or amendment to your estate documents. A transfer on death designation can be used with specific assets like IRA accounts or certain investment accounts. You can talk to your IRA administrator or account broker and request a form that directs the account to be transferred to a charitable beneficiary. It doesn't have to be the entire account. It could again be a percentage or a specific dollar amount. Because the transfer is automatic, there is no additional work for your trustee or estate administrator. When considering a legacy gift, there are also a number of options available that provide you with a benefit during your lifetime. The benefits can be potential tax savings, ease of management, or a combination that also provides you with ongoing income. Let's explore a few of the most popular. We will start by looking at donor-advised funds. Donor-advised funds, or DAFs for short, are one of the most popular charitable tools in the country today. A DAF allows you to make a charitable contribution to open the fund. Then, you make grant recommendations to charitable organizations from the assets in the fund. You can add to your fund anytime. You can pass on grant-making access to one generation after you. And that helps to build and share the values of philanthropic engagement with the next generation. You can fund and contribute to a DAF with cash, securities, real property, or other assets. In many cases, you're able to avoid realizing capital gains when assets are sold after being transferred to the DAF establishing agency, such as the Presbyterian Foundation. By using a DAF, you have one source of records for all of your charitable giving and only one receipt that you have to keep track of. You can make grants anonymously if you wish, and you can make grants on your schedule. When you set up your DAF, you can name successor managers to continue your philanthropic work for another generation, or you can name charitable beneficiaries to receive the remainder of the assets at the end of your life. Another popular way of making a legacy gift while receiving a lifetime benefit is through a pooled income fund. A pooled income fund allows you to contribute to a charitable trust that combines your contribution with that of multiple donors to create a large investment pool. You receive income based on the investment performance of the pooled assets and the percentage interest you have in the pool. When you contribute to the fund, you may receive an immediate tax benefit based on an estimate of the amount of your contribution that will ultimately be distributed to the church or mission project you designate. Participating in a pooled income fund allows you, your spouse, or another individual to receive income during life and to designate a charitable beneficiary to receive the remainder of your invested contribution at the end of the last designated lifetime. With pooled income funds, you can also contribute with cash, appreciated securities, or other assets and possibly avoid realizing capital gains taxes. Finally, I want to explore charitable trusts. There are two major types of charitable trusts: the charitable remainder trust and the charitable lead trust. A charitable remainder trust allows you to create a private trust. You contribute assets and designate how long and how much the trust will pay to you or another family member. You can choose the period of time you want it to pay out, such as your lifetime, and the percentage amount that you will receive. At the end of the designated period of time, the remainder of the trust is distributed to one or more charitable beneficiaries. A charitable lead trust works just the opposite. With a lead trust, your charitable beneficiaries receive income for a designated period of years. After that time, the assets remaining in the trust are paid out to the original donor or any other designated individual or individuals. Whether you choose a remainder trust or a lead trust is often based on several factors. Those factors can include your need for current income, your current and anticipated tax bracket, current interest rates, and projected economic growth. There can be significant tax savings with both, and I encourage you to talk to your ministry relations officer about specific details. As with DAFs and a pooled income fund, you can establish a charitable trust with a variety of assets. You are not limited to using cash. We have looked at a variety of options for making a legacy gift, but I want to address one more topic before you go. That is the question of what happens to the gift you make once it is made. You can, of course, always make a gift outright to your charitable beneficiary, leaving them with the discretion and how the gift will be used. For instance, a general gift to your church will be received, and the use of the funds will be determined by session if there is no further designation or restriction. You can also restrict the use of the funds to those areas that have been most important to you during your life. Perhaps maintaining Christian education, youth programming, or music and art. When you restrict the use of a gift, it is important to think about being broadly specific so that the gift can be used for generations to come. You want to be sure that the designated use is not so narrow that the purpose cannot be fulfilled in the future. Here is an example. You can make a gift of 10% of your estate to maintain the gardens and landscape around the church property. Instead of making a gift of 10% of your estate to maintain the rose bushes lining the walkway at the entrance to the sanctuary. The former language provides flexibility that is consistent with your goals and values. The latter is so specific that if the landscape needs to change or the property structure changes, it will be difficult to benefit from your generous gift. It is hard to imagine what the church of our ancestors looked like 2,000 years ago, but here we are benefiting from all the good works that were done before us. In the same spirit, we want to make sure that others can benefit from the good works that we are doing today in the future, where they will live. Finally, one of the greatest gifts you can offer is through an endowment. At the foundation, we encourage generous donors making a legacy gift to consider making that gift permanent by creating an endowment, ensuring an ongoing source of income in perpetuity. You can create a new endowment, or you can contribute to an existing endowment that is consistent with your goals and values. We manage thousands of endowments that the faithful have created over the years, supporting specific churches, ministries, broad programs, and many purposes. Indeed, our oldest endowment is 200 years old and still provides funds today. At the Presbyterian Foundation, we've been providing support to generous individuals for nearly 225 years. That's 9 generations. And those gifts directly benefit our churches, our denomination, and our mission, now and forever. Our team of ministry relations officers are available to support your church in building a legacy program, or individuals in identifying the best way to share their gifts and values with the generations to come. Thank you for your time and attention today. We at the Foundation look forward to the opportunity to serve as you consider what your legacy will be. Let's close with 2 passages from Scripture that we might prayerfully consider as we think about what our life and spirit looks like. The first is from Matthew 6, verses 19 to 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The last passage is from Deuteronomy 15, verse 10. Give liberally and be ungrudging when you do so. For on this account the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake. Since there will never cease to be some in need on the earth, I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land. We invite you to prayerfully consider your legacy, thinking about what God has called you to do with all that you have been given. And please reach out to us if we can help you. Thank you. Have a blessed day.